All right. So, you wanted to take a deep dive into this APL Apollo Tubes Limited,
Yeah.
and you sent over a really interesting mix of stuff company filings and press releases, even a conference call transcript.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you really want to get the full picture of their performance.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm kind of intrigued too.
Yeah.
They're posting some pretty impressive numbers, like record numbers.
Yeah.
But we all know the markets have been shaky.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something interesting going on here.
Absolutely.
Why don't we,
Let's kick things off with those Q3 FY25 results
yeah.
that we see in the earnings presentation.
Okay.
Because, I mean, they really jump out at you.
Yeah.
828,000 tons of steel tubes shipped.
Wow.
That's not just a good quarter.
Right.
That's their highest ever volume.
Right.
A 37% jump from last year.
Yeah.
And revenues up 30% to $54.3 billion.
So they are
I'm curious.
crushing it.
What's your take on these numbers in the context of the overall steel tube industry?
Okay, so just to be sure I'm following.
Yeah.
They're absolutely crushing it, right?
They are.
But is this just APL Apollo doing well? Or is the whole industry on this
Right.
amazing wave right now?
Yeah.
I need some context.
So it's definitely APL Apollo outperforming the market.
Okay.
There's no question about that.
Right.
When you look at their filings,
Yeah.
you see they're facing the same headwinds as everybody else.
Okay.
Weak retail demand,
Uh-huh.
government infrastructure projects are slowing down.
Yeah.
This is not like a rising tide lifting all boats situation.
Okay.
It makes their success even more impressive.
Right.
And really begs the question, how are they doing this?
Well, one of the things that the earnings presentation mentions is this shift from standard products
Yeah.
to more value-added products. Like they highlight this Apollo structural heavy over the general kind.
Yes.
And that seems to be really boosting their EBITDA per ton.
So maybe that's part of the answer.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm not really sure what those products even are.
Okay.
And is it even smart to go high-end when the economy's a bit uncertain?
So that's a great question.
Yeah.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
When we talk about general applications,
Uh-huh.
that's like your everyday steel tubes.
Right.
You know, they do the job,
Right.
but there's not a lot of profit margin there.
Oh, yeah.
When we look at Apollo's structural heavy,
Yeah.
that's their premium line.
Gotcha.
They're tougher.
Uh-huh.
They're used in more specialized construction projects.
Okay.
And because APL Apollo has innovated in this area,
Yeah.
they can command a higher price. So it's a very classic move to focus on higher margin products, especially when you see a basic demand softening.
Oh, so it's like the difference between selling a basic car
Exactly.
and a luxury model.
Yeah.
When people are cutting back, maybe they're not going to upgrade,
Right.
but essential infrastructure still needs those like top-tier parts.
Totally. So APL Apollo is basically playing it smart
Yeah.
by catering to that specific need.
They are.
However,
But there's another layer to this that I think is really interesting.
what's that?
The market itself is shifting
Okay.
from sponge iron steel pipes
Mhm.
to HR coil steel pipes.
Okay.
So HR coil is a higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who the dominant player is in that segment?
I don't know. Tell me.
APL Apollo.
Oh, wow.
So they're not just shifting their product mix,
Okay.
they're riding a wave in the overall industry.
So they're kind of like ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
And they're positioned to take advantage of that change.
Exactly.
All right. That makes a lot of sense.
Good.
Speaking of being ahead of the curve,
Mm-hmm.
did you happen to see their score in the 2023 Dow Jones Sustainability Index?
I did.
86th percentile.
Very impressive.
And they're saying it's going to be even better next year.
Yeah.
What have they been doing on the sustainability front?
Well, that score is not just good. It's a very strong indicator of their commitment to ESG.
Okay.
And in their filings, they talk about setting some pretty ambitious emissions reduction targets.
Uh-huh.
They're also working to increase their use of renewable energy.
Okay.
But that's gotten a little more complex.
Yeah.
Because they just brought a new plant online
Right.
that's solely on grid electricity.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah.
But they are moving in the right direction.
They are.
Yeah.
Now, this is where things get really interesting to me.
Right.
In that conference call transcript,
Yeah.
their chairman, Sanjay Gupta, actually predicts even higher EBITDA
Wow.
for Q4 FY25.
Okay.
I mean, with the market being what it is,
Yeah.
that is a bold statement.
It is?
Do you think he can actually pull this off?
Well,
Maybe?
Mr. Gupta has
Yeah.
a history of setting these really ambitious goals
Uh-huh.
and then achieving them.
Right.
His optimism, I think, likely stems from his belief that market conditions will improve in Q4, particularly demand for those heavy structural tubes.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble for sure,
Yeah.
but one that seems to be based on his assessment of where the market's heading.
So he's basically betting on things turning around soon.
Yeah,
It's a high-stakes play,
it is.
but it could pay off big time if he's right.
Absolutely.
And remember, APL Apollo is not just sitting back hoping for the best.
No, they're not.
They are actively trying to shape the market with their product innovation and expansion strategy.
Correct.
Okay, so we've got a company that's performing incredibly well.
Yeah.
Even in a tough market. They're making these strategic moves to really capitalize on industry shifts.
Right.
And they've got a leader who's not afraid to set bold goals.
Yes,
This is a fascinating story.
it is.
And I'm really eager to hear more about what they're doing on the international front. But first, I think we need to dig a little deeper into their strategy.
Okay.
Especially that comment about focusing on primary steel.
You picked up on that, did you? That's a crucial detail.
Yeah.
That speaks to their long-term vision.
Okay.
Let's unpack that further.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that comment about primary steel was interesting.
It was.
It was in the conference call transcript.
Yeah.
And Mr. Gupta almost seemed dismissive of secondary steel, arguing that it just wouldn't be viable in the long run.
Oh, right.
I wonder what that means for their sourcing and cost structure.
Well, it definitely seems like they're really committed to this high quality, even if it costs more.
Right.
But doesn't that make them less competitive?
Right.
Especially when everyone's watching their budgets.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
Remember, they have that in-house cold rolling technology,
Oh, right.
which really gives them an edge
Uh-huh.
and allows them to optimize their costs,
Okay.
particularly for products that require those thinner gauges.
So instead of like buying the pre-made thin steel,
Exactly.
they can buy the thicker coils at a discount and then roll it down to the exact spec they need.
Exactly.
That's pretty smart.
It is.
It lets them keep that high quality without, breaking the bank.
It's a key competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And it ties into their broader strategy of vertical integration. They're not just a manufacturer.
Right.
They control a significant chunk of their supply chain.
Okay.
From raw materials to finished product.
So that gives them a lot of flexibility, control over the quality and cost.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the growth, the innovation, the focus on sustainability,
Yep.
a pretty bold leader,
Uh-huh.
and now this vertically integrated business model.
Right.
It seems like they have all the pieces in place
They do.
to really succeed, but they're not just content with dominating the Indian market.
It seems not.
There was something in these materials you sent over about expansion into the Middle East.
Yes.
So tell me, what's the story there?
Ah, yes. Their international ambitions. They see huge potential in the Middle East,
Okay.
where demand for structural steel tubes is booming.
Uh-huh.
They've already got a plant up and running in Dubai.
Hold on, a plant in Dubai.
Yeah.
I totally missed that.
Did you?
Why Dubai? What are they hoping to achieve in that market?
It's all about being closer to the customer
Okay.
and taking advantage of these really interesting regional dynamics.
Uh-huh.
So the Dubai plant lets them leverage lower-cost steel from Asia and offer faster delivery times to clients in the Middle East
Makes sense.
compared to shipping everything from India.
Right.
Mr. Gupta even mentioned this recent order from Saudi Arabia
Okay.
that they're fulfilling using a combination of production from India and Dubai.
Wow. Talk about a global supply chain.
Right.
So they're really thinking big.
They are.
He also mentioned something about destocking
Yeah.
and reduced imports in the region.
Uh-huh.
What did he mean by that?
So it seems like there was a really heavy reliance on imported steel tubes. In the Middle East, before APL Apollo set up shop,
Okay.
now with their local production,
Yeah.
they're offering a very competitive alternative.
Right.
And this has led to reduced imports.
Gotcha.
And as a result, destocking as the market shifts to a local supply.
So they're not just entering a new market. They're
Right.
kind of changing the way it works.
They're disrupting the status quo.
That's impressive.
It is.
Do you think they have the potential to become a global leader in this industry?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
They definitely have the ambition and the drive.
Yeah.
But Going global takes more than just geographic reach.
Right.
It takes a deep understanding of these very diverse markets,
Okay.
adapting to different regulations, and building strong relationships with customers all over the world.
It sounds pretty daunting.
It can be.
But they haven't really shied away from challenges so far, have they?
You're right. They have been quite proactive.
Yeah.
Remember their acquisition of Shankara Building Products?
Yeah.
That wasn't just about growth.
Right.
It was about getting a stronger foothold in the retail market,
Okay.
especially in India, where that's crucial.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not just relying on organic growth.
Right.
They're making these strategic moves to really expand their reach.
And that deal gave them access to Shankara's huge retail network,
Exactly.
which really complements their existing distribution channels.
It does.
So they're playing the long game here,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not afraid to shake things up a little bit.
Exactly. And when you combine that with their focus on innovation and sustainability and their leadership team's willingness to set these ambitious goals,
Right.
it's hard not to be impressed.
It is.
There are definitely some hurdles ahead,
Yeah.
but they seem to be doing all the right things to overcome them.
I'm convinced.
Good.
APL Apollo is a company to watch.
For sure.
There's one little detail, though, that kind of caught my eye.
Okay.
It's a bit of a side note. Do you remember that discussion about SG Mart and Shankara?
I do.
I vaguely remember those names.
Yeah.
I think they came up when they were talking about distribution.
Yes. SG Mart is APL Apollo's own retail arm,
Right.
while Shankara is a large building materials retailer.
Uh-huh.
And they were asked about sales volumes through these different channels.
Okay.
And I found Mr. Gupta's response quite interesting.
Yeah.
He sort of brushed off SG Mart,
Really?
implying that it wasn't contributing a whole lot to their sales.
That's strange that their own retail arm isn't doing more business.
It is.
Yeah. Why would that be?
Well, perhaps they're prioritizing their existing network of distributors over SG Mart. Or maybe they're struggling to scale their own retail operation effectively.
It's definitely something that needs further investigation.
It is.
But you know what? Maybe we shouldn't get bogged down in the details.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We went from record profits to global ambitions.
Right.
From steel grades to sustainability scores. It's been a pretty comprehensive deep dive into APL Apollo Tubes Limited.
Indeed.
But before we wrap up, there's one question I just keep coming back to.
Okay.
With their really aggressive growth strategy and this expansion into new markets, you know, the eastern region of India, the Middle East,
Yeah.
do you think APL Apollo really has what it takes to become a true global leader in the structural steel tube industry?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, they're checking a lot of the boxes, right?
Yeah.
Solid financials, a smart strategy, a clear vision for the future.
Yeah.
But going global is a whole different ballgame.
Right.
It's not just about operational excellence.
Right.
You've got to navigate these diverse markets,
Yeah.
understand all these different regulatory landscapes, and you have to build trust with customers all over the world.
Yeah, it sounds pretty daunting,
It is.
but they haven't really shied away from challenges so far.
That's true.
They've actually been quite proactive.
Yeah.
Like, remember that acquisition of Shankara Building Products?
Yeah.
That wasn't just about growth.
Right.
It was about getting a stronger foothold in the retail market.
Exactly.
Especially in India,
Yeah.
where that's so important.
It is.
They're not just relying on that organic growth.
Right.
They're making strategic moves to expand their reach.
Exactly. That deal gave them access to Shankara's huge retail network,
It did.
which really complements their existing distribution channels.
It does. So they're really playing the long game here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not afraid to kind of shake things up a bit.
I think that's right.
And you combine that with their focus on innovation and sustainability and their leadership team's willingness to set those ambitious goals.
It's hard not to be impressed.
It is.
There are certainly some hurdles ahead, but they really do seem to be doing all the right things to overcome them.
I'm convinced.
Good.
APL Apollo is definitely a company to watch.
Thank-
Well, huge thanks to you for walking us through this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
It's been fascinating, and I feel like I have a much better understanding
Good.
of what makes this company tick.
Well, that's what we like to hear.
And to you, our listener,
Yes.
thank you for suggesting this deep dive.
It was a good one.
We love getting your requests, so keep them coming.
Absolutely.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.